case you ain't noticed, that is Nas featuring Charlie Wilson, produced by a Hitboy. I believe you got a co-production credit on this as well. So,
Absolutely.
so before we get into that, let's start with the song I played originally when you was part of a duo. Tell us how that group, how you became part of the duo, how the song came together. Just tell your story from the beginning, please.
Okay, so that is from a group I was in called Cachet De Vois. We got signed to Warner Brothers Records in 1987 when I was like 20 years old. And by the time I recorded that, I was probably 21 singing that, what you just heard, and produced and wrote the whole thing by myself. Jay King out of the group called Club Nouveau was on Warner Brothers at the time. They came through my hometown, Kansas, Wichita, Kansas, and a friend of mine, Steve Williams, gave them a demo of us, me and that girl that is in the group, the duo, Lachelle Matheny, a longtime best friend of mine, and she and I literally had tried to come get a record deal in LA like a year before in '86. Didn't happen. Went back home, and it happened because of my friend Steve Williams giving Jay King from Club Nouveau a demo, a gospel demo, really, of us. And Benny Medina was the head guy at the time at Warner Brothers, who is now currently managing J-Lo. And the whole show, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, is based on his life.
Okay.
So he created Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? Because he got adopted by the Gordys, Barry Gordy from Motown. It's a crazy dot connecting thing. But Benny Medina is the one who greenlit us getting signed to Warner Brothers. I cut a whole album, me and Lachelle, in 1988, and it was due to be released in 1988. The whole deal fell apart. It never came out. So the whole album is unreleased. It's called Personal is the name of the album. Cachet De Vois, Personal. Lots of people who know me and my work have found it and are finding it on Discogs and things like that. They're buying. It's out there because they had promos of it because it was really on the release schedule for 1988. How it happened with Hitboy and Nas is that one day, first of all, I love Hitboy, and I have been working with Hitboy on various things before that. I think I did some stuff with him and a couple other people before that. But the point is, he said, "Hey, yo, Nas saw I had an Instagram post that I posted it. I was talking about it and how I wrote that and how mature the lyrics were for such a young person like I was to be writing like that." And I was like,
sorry, how old was you at the time?
I was like 20.
Wow. Okay.
When I sang that, what you played and wrote it, right?
Right.
And it was just, but I'm coming from I'm in the Midwest, man. Gap Band and Charlie Wilson is my whole, between Stevie Wonder, Gap Band, Charlie Wilson, the Clark Sisters, all that stuff is in my DNA, right? Sly Stone. So it makes sense that it sounds like that because that's the things that I have been raised on, right? So it was an honor when Hitboy said, "Hey man, I want to cut this on Nas," and they had already started the beat and all that stuff. And he asked me to come back and replay some things and then produce Charlie Wilson's vocals on it, which was huge honor. So that's like a full circle moment for me. Yes, I broke down in tears when I was in the studio with him, absolutely, because that's my guy. I've always loved Charlie as much as I love Stevie, and his DNA runs through me organically. It's not an imitation deal. It's a real life thing for me with him. So it was very, very special for them to A, find that, B, cut it, and have Nas, one of my favorite rappers in the game, right up next to Jay. Like, my only other bucket list is to have Jay do something with me and Jay, but that's one of my major bucket list moves is Nas. So thanks and shout out to Hitboy for putting that together, man, and doing that. That dude is fire. Love him to death. He don't do nothing whack ever because he's tapped into, to me, he's tapped into what hip hop needs, and that is creativity, originality, and just high level, man, high level of skill. So I didn't mean to ramble about all that, but I'm saying that's
no, please talk your shit, man. Talk your shit.
That's where that comes from.
There's a lot of interesting things you said. So let's go back a bit, right? So you said that the record deal it broke through. It ain't like what happened? Why did it fall apart?
Relationships were frazzled within the structure of the how it was put together. I was signed to a production deal through this particular entity. When that fell apart, then I didn't have a deal anymore. So That's how it was like a clash of personalities within that structure, and then it caused the deal to go away. So when that happened, that song just sat around, and that whole album just sat unreleased for like 30 plus years until Hitboy decided to put it on Nas.
So I noticed this particular song isn't on streaming services. Is there any plans for you to put it on streaming services?
You know what's a good question? I don't know how that works because since it was never released as an album, I don't know how that would work. Like it would have to be reissued as a record through Warner Brothers probably, or some other entity that would purchase it as a work, a whole complete work, and then put it out. So that's something that can be talked about. The rights to it are coming back to me and Jay King, I think, soon. So
okay, right. So you don't currently have the rights to it now.
Well, now we're about to, because I think we're exactly at the time where it reverts back. So that's something that could be done. It would have to be a deal that's done.
Okay. Well, I hope to see it on the.
Yeah, I mean, soon. I'm not the craziest about some of that stuff on that album because I was just a young buck trying to find my legs. I wasn't ready yet, production wise. I wasn't ready, but some of the songs on there are good, and some of them are horrible. So I wouldn't be like thrilled at people hearing some of the stuff on there. But we got a joint on there called "You Can Have It." It's a gospel joint. I really like that. It's in the mode of the Clark Sisters' "You Brought the Sunshine," which they interpolated from Stevie Wonder's "Master Blaster." So it's like there's a lot of dots connected through that.
Okay, so this song isn't the only one that's been sampled from that album then?
No. There's another one more called "Only You," that my man Jake One, producer Jake One.
Yeah.
He and I have a whole incredible origin story as well. I'll tell you that one in a minute if you want. But Jake One, another amazing producer friend of mine, he was up on that Cachet album before most people, and he sampled it, and he has a thing called 808s and roller skates. It's a whole compilation thing. So I used a lot of 808 on that album, on that Cachet album. And so this particular one is called "Only You." And that's a joint that he flipped, and it basically just plays the song. He didn't even really sample. He just kind of plays the song into this mix of all 808 joints. And so I really appreciate Jake One for that. So shout out to Jake One for doing that. And I also cut that same song on Aretha Franklin in 1994.
Okay.
Yeah, Clive Davis. Clive Davis sent me to Detroit to work with the Queen. So,
wow.
And she wanted to do a duet. So she called, she said, "Brian, what person would you want me to do a duet with?" I was a huge fan, and still am, of Joe Little from the Rude Boys back in the day. So like, I just called Joe and said, "Yo, man, you want to do this duet with Aretha Franklin?" He said, "Hell yeah." So he drove up from I think it was Cleveland to Detroit, and we cut it. And that same song from that unreleased Cachet album, "Only You," we cut that on Aretha Franklin. So I have an unreleased version of that as well that I want to try to get out as well.
Wow, that's amazing. So I would assume, because it didn't, this album, it wasn't released when it was supposed to. I assumed you didn't make any money off of it.
Oh no, not at all.
So subsequently, when many years later people started to find it and then sample it in their own music, like the one I just played, the Nas song, that's when you started to reap the financial benefits of something you did like decades ago.
Yeah, and financial benefits, that's a relative.
Okay.
That's a relative term.
Talk about it.
Well, independent records typically don't, they're not doing the big numbers, and that's okay. I think honestly, with that record, to be honest, like it's not even about that at all for me, because I didn't expect to make any money off of it really. The level of honor that I have to be associated with Nas at all, let alone with something that I created when I was a kid and just getting into this business, and associated with one of the top hip hop producers in the game.
Hitboy.
Like it to me, that's worth way more than any financial reward I could get from it. Like, and then Charlie Wilson, come on, man.
Yeah, man.
Come on, bro. Like, it's too much. It's almost overwhelming. I could just like cry with the level of gratitude I have for how that happened.
So you said you vocal produced Charlie Wilson's vocals on this song, on the Nas song. Talk us through like what like what that is like? Because I guess for people who don't know what it takes to make music, you hear someone say, "Oh, I vocal produce someone." They'll be like, what does that actually entail? Explain that for those who don't know.
Okay, so I'll give you an example. The best example of vocal production, one of my favorite vocal producers is Kook Carell. So like he does all Rihanna's stuff. So when you hear Rihanna's performances, they are shaped and molded by a person who's sitting there making sure she delivers what the song requires. So a vocal producer, that's what the vocal producer does. They make sure that the person who's singing is delivering what is required for the material. So it's like a director in a movie, if you will.
Right.
But
yes.
but with vocals. Hey, try this, try that. Oh, this is better than that. Let's take this take over that take. It's just like a director. And then you make sure the performer gets the best performance onto the product.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. And let's talk about the you also said that you replayed some stuff on this record.
Yeah.
What exactly did you replay?
I think with Hitboy, he likes to have the bass and the keys updated, you know what I mean? So it fits the thing. But he's gonna chop it anyway, which I love. Like he's gonna chop it up anyway. So I just kind of played the basic things that were already there. I just played over the top of them, and then he can chop it and move it around and have it sound sonically more modern. So that's what that's about.
Okay. I said one final question before we move on to the next song now. Now, obviously, Hitboy and Nas, they've done quite a few projects. The King Disease series, where Hitboy will produce, if not most of it, the whole thing.
The whole thing, yeah.
Yeah. And that was a characteristic in music that was quite common back in the day. But now, as time goes on, albums, they become sort of like a piecemeal thing where you have loads of individual producers contributing to one project. Now, as a producer yourself, what do you prefer? Do you prefer to work in a way where you're producing the whole project, or do you like to like spread your workload to various other projects?
That's a great question. I think it depends on the artist. I love when, okay, give an example. DJ Premier, when he did the Bahamadia debut, the rapper Bahamadia debut, that is exactly what needed to happen. He needed to helm that whole thing because that her identity and his sound were married. And right. So they were telling a story from beginning to end. However, I like artists like Doja Cat. Like right now, she uses a certain group of producers that she fucks with. So like she understands what her vision is. And so for her to grab various producers makes sense because she's getting different things from different people and it makes make her vision work. So I think it depends on the artist and the project itself. There's no one size to that.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Makes a perfect lot of sense. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next song, guys. So this next song doesn't actually use a sample, right? So I'm just gonna play it.